in order to really know Shanequa Gay,
Oh my goodness.
listen, because I think that artists are anonymous. I was watching an episode of Being Mary Jane, and I was like, that's Shanequa's artwork. Like, I didn't have anyone to turn to, but I was just like, this is the Hollywood of the South. And I'm watching a show about a woman who's trying to establish herself and figure herself out, and one of your paintings that is speaking to womanhood, and then I'm going to be real specific, Southern womanhood. And your artwork started kind of showing me what that womanhood was. And I think that's like some of your early work.
Right.
And so I wanted to talk a little bit about just that, your womanhood, your woman walk, you being Southern girl and teaching me what that is. How did you, I guess, decide on that particular series of work? Is that one of the earlier series?
Yeah, that's fair. So I am Southern, absolutely right. I am a official Georgia peach, last of the Mohicans, last of a dying
Grady
breed.
baby? Grady baby.
Grady baby.
Listen.
Grady baby. You know, my first understandings of Atlanta were on Stewart Avenue, what is now Metropolitan Avenue. A lot of people don't know that. But my family grew, you know, I grew up, it's the Bible Belt, so I grew up in church, Southern church. Specific to what I found to be really necessary was the AME church, right? And going to my great-grandmother's in Paulding County and really just being enamored by the motherboard, really being enamored by the ushers, and really being enamored by my mother's spirituality. And so all of those representations of strong women in my family and those not were represented in my body, those first series of work. Yeah.
They took portraits of Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms
Right.
in front of one of your murals.
Right.
And
right.
your mural was dedicated to women, but even more importantly, it's where it was situated.
Right.
Just
right.
the fact that even where it was situated was historic, was historic to Atlanta.
Right.
And it's one of the places where I've been like, okay, wait, so what happened here? And so were you intentional? Were you able to even choose where your murals were? Because was that part of the Super Bowl kind of push by Wonder?
Those were a part of that initiative by the Super Bowl. No, I did not choose my site. They weren't site specific chosen by me, but they were chosen by Wonder the initiative that was in conjunction with the Super Bowl host committee for those, I don't know, was it maybe 20 plus murals over the course of the 2019 Super Bowl. But they were intentional about space. They were intentional about areas that were dynamic and necessary within the civil rights movement. And so, you know, Auburn Avenue, Edgewood Avenue, those were stomping grounds of the King family. And so having that body of work on, you know, the historic Auburn Avenue, like it just meant everything. Well, let me see, that one's on Edgewood. It's another one up over from Auburn Avenue. But yeah, it meant everything, you know, when you're thinking about those areas. You know, at one point in time, that area was one of the wealthiest African-American neighborhoods in the world. Like in the world, it's most specific to this nation. And so being able to talk about women that would not otherwise be known and having their faces be present, like it meant everything. And then, you know, with Keisha's beautiful self, like the history that she made as a dynamic woman, not just here in Atlanta, but in this nation and in this world, making history, like it's everything.
When I saw what you did at the Vine City MARTA station, that elevated it. Even that idea that people are just passing, walking by, something so beautiful, and not realizing who authored it, who created it. But then I was like, wait a minute, how did she manage that? She had to do that, and people had to actually see her doing it. So can you talk a little bit about what that process was? Because you could not be anonymous anymore. Not in that instance. How did people even react to?
There was a bit of anonymity to that. Like, first of all, completing those murals was really, really difficult because for whatever reason, when we were doing those murals, it was the coldest fall and winter ever.
You are correct, yes.
It was freezing. And so I was also in the middle of completing my MFA. And I was also in the middle of preparing for exhibitions in Miami for Art Basel as a part of my graduate studies. And so I was not getting a lot of sleep. So it wasn't a MARTA station. The MARTA stations, I believe, they start back up around maybe 4 a.m., somewhere around there. So I was getting up around about 1 or 2 a.m. to come and paint for 2 hours to be able to project before going off to class at Georgia State.
Come on.
And absolutely painting in the midst of traffic and right. So doing that at 2 a.m., maybe painting from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m., getting a little sleep in my car, and then going to Georgia State to teach and then to complete my studies. And after I did that, in that around about 5 o'clock, bring my behind back to the MARTA station, paint from maybe 5 to 10, go home, get sleep, start it again. It was a lot. It was a lot to get it done. It took maybe about 30 days to get just that station done. I did have assistants. I did have, beautiful women crew to come and help. But it was also times I was doing it by myself. It was just me. And so it was a lot. It took a lot to put in it. And, so much so that I was like, you know what? Do I really need to do this? Is it really, really necessary?
It's one of my favorites.
Right.
I love, yes, the aesthetic, but then when I looked a little deeper and I was really like, wait, are those face? And then I was like, my goodness, hold on. This is dedicated to young people. And I'm curious how that inspiration came about. Like, did you have the location and then you were like, okay, wait, what can I dedicate this to? Or how did that work? Because the Covenant House, I actually, had an opportunity to do a service there, and it was so moving. So to see that you dedicated this piece and that you got to look really carefully, you got to stop, you got to slow down to really be able to fully appreciate what you did there. I'm just curious, what came first?
Right, the chicken or the egg. So a part of the process in creating murals for the Super Bowl host committee was that we went to these community meetings. And those community meetings were what we were to glean from. And so they set up like we could, assign ourselves to different ones. And I was really interested in the Covenant House. And so, my background, I was an AmeriCorps member. My background is in service. I spent 2 years serving the Atlanta community, and also what was then the Pine Street homeless shelter, which really housed mostly Black men. So, like, I have a background in that. And so being able to hear a lot of those young people's stories, I was like, how often do people have access to this? Like, I was moved to tears hearing these young people talk about how this program saved them, hearing them talk about their past experiences. That's a lot to be transparent. Can you imagine being homeless as a teenager, right? And so I wanted visibility for the people that are not seen. And the way that I created visibility, I had... because they were young and, like, teenagers have a tendency to be really kind of closed off, right? They're kind of like in that moment of, I don't know you. And so... and so
they will tell you just
right,
that.
They will tell you just that. I don't know you. But to break up, like, the fact that we didn't know each other, I brought a trampoline. Right?
I love it.
So, like, that broke up some of that guard.
So
and
smart.
right.
I'm gonna bring in a
And so I
Look, now I'm like, that's a good
I made them
idea.
jump on this trampoline and make these kind of silly faces, and that's what I took pictures of. And so I made a silhouette from their faces, from that experience or that photo shoot with them, right, to see them in a space of joy. And then, you know, one of the things that may not be known a lot about Georgia is that we have a lot of vegetation here, you know, the most in the southeast. And so I wanted to speak to the things that are hidden. And so I pulled from this African motif from one of my favorite skirts and used that like as my kind of go-to point and kind of shifted it around to make it into something beautiful in that space, and using their faces as this kind of backdrop to the things that are hidden. Their stories are hidden. It's not ones that we get to see. And so, yeah, that was a part of the kind of process of creating that body of work.
Because I'm teaching young people to really sit in their gifts, to magnify their gifts. And I was like, this is the lesson for us both. They're trying to celebrate us. They see themselves in us. So why not give you your flowers, as it were? So thank you for sitting with me, and thank you for letting me honor you.
Thank you, Susan. I so appreciate you.
Blessed. Absolutely blessed.